Hi, in this video I'm going to cover the Administrator module of Web Console. This video is intended for any search and rescue team member who has responsibility of managing access to the Airflare registry, whether it be via Field Console on a mobile device or via Web Console on a laptop or desktop computer. All you'll need for today is you'll need to be logged into Web Console as an administrator. So once you log into Web Console, on the upper right-hand side of the home screen, you'll see your username, the email address that you use to log into Web Console. Below that, you'll see your agency name, and below that, you'll see a log out hyperlink. If your agency name is hyperlinked, that means that you are logged in as an administrator. And if you click that hyperlinked agency name, that will take you to the admin module. You'll see 6 columns: the name of your team members who have access to the registry, their email address, the date that access was created, what platform they have access from, whether it be Field Console from a mobile device, and whether or not they have Web Console access. And finally, you'll see a list of commands or actions that you can take on a team member's access. Disable it, delete it, reset the password, etc., etc. So I will assume in this video that if you're watching that you are logged in as an administrator and you're able to get to the administrator module page. If you are an administrator and you do not have administrator privileges, meaning your agency name is not hyperlinked, please pause for now and contact us, the Airflare team, and we will grant that administrator privilege for you. So important to start, I think, with what I mean by registry access. Someone who has access to the Airflare registry is able to perform a registry search to determine if a lost subject or a subject in need of assistance is an Airflare subscriber. They're able to initiate a search, sending out the location return notification. They're able to download an Airflare ID to configure a detector for a field search. They are able to send off a location request text to a non-Airflare subscriber, and they're able to view their search team's history, all of the searches that were initiated and the results of that search. So anytime I use the term access to the registry or Airflare registry access, that's what I mean. So as an administrator, through the administrator module, there's 5 main things that you're able to accomplish. The first is that you're able to generate a username and password for a team member to gain access via Web Console. You're able to reset that password if they ever lose it or forget it. You are able to view who across the team has access to the Airflare registry, either via Field Console from a mobile device, via Web Console from a laptop or desktop computer, or both. And finally, you're able to temporarily suspend or permanently delete access to the Airflare registry for anyone on the team. So I'll go through each of those features through the remainder of this video. So let's start with granting access to Web Console and why you as an administrator might want to do that. As a reminder, anyone can download Field Console to their mobile device, but registry access does not automatically come with a Field Console download. That user needs to authorize Field Console against a detector assigned to the agency to get that access. Once they have it, though, they can go to the profile page within Field Console, select Enable Web Console Access, and they can grant themselves permissions to get into Web Console. They have a username and a password generated, and if they ever forget that password, they can go back into Profile to remind themselves of what that password is or generate a new password for themselves. So there really is no admin function for a Field Console user to get access to Web Console. This feature in the admin module granting a user Web Console access is designed for those team members who do not want to have or do not need to have Field Console on their phone. So for an example, a dispatcher who's never out in the field, they don't need Field Console on their phone, but you want them to have Web Console access. So you as an admin can go in and grant that for them so that they don't have to download Field Console and go through that whole process. So in order to do that, go ahead and scroll down to the very bottom of the admin module page, and you will see a header, Add Personnel. Go ahead and enter the name and the email address of that user who you want to have Web Console access and hit Save. That user will get an email with a password. That's their username and password to access Web Console. So from there, let's go back up to the very top of the admin page, and you'll see name, email, date created. So that's the identity of all of the personnel on your team with access to the Airflare registry. That next column over, platform, identifies the mechanism by which they have that access. So the first icon is the globe icon with a www in it. That identifies your team members who have access via Web Console only. So that would be the user, for example, that you just created a username and password for. They got that email with the Web Console login information. And then obviously WC access, Web Console access is yes, because that's the mechanism that they have to access the registry. You'll see under the commands column, the last column over, reset password. So if that team member that does not have Field Console but only has access to Web Console through that email that they received, if they ever lose their password or forget it, you as an administrator can go in under commands and reset their password. They'll get a new email with a new password so that they can move forward. Under the platform column, there is also an Apple icon identifying that that user has Field Console on an iOS device, or an Android icon which designates users that have Field Console access via an Android device. If those users, iOS user or Android user with Field Console, enabled Web Console access, you will see WC access, the next column over, as yes. If those users never went in and generated a password for Web Console, you'll see the Apple icon or the Android icon under platform, but they will have no WC access, Web Console access. So looking at the last column over, commands, you'll see the disable button and the delete button. Disable is intended to temporarily suspend access to the Airflare registry. This might be used for a team member on leave of absence. They're injured. They might be seasonal. They're here in the winter and active. They're gone in the summer, but you expect to have them back the following season. So by hitting the disable button, you'll notice that their name, email, date created, all of that has a strike through, and enable now appears in the commands button. So if they're going out on leave, you'll want to disable their access to the Airflare registry. When they come back, simply hit enable under that record, and it will re-grant them access to the Airflare registry via Field Console, Web Console, whatever that account has. Delete is intended for team members who leave the team, and that eliminates their ability to access the registry via Field Console if they have that on their phone, and it disables their login and password for Web Console if they have that access. So that's it for the administrator module, hopefully fairly straightforward. Just as a quick wrap up and review, anyone on the team can download Field Console to their phone, authorize Field Console against a detector assigned to the agency, and then through that mechanism, the profile page, they can generate their own username and password. So there really is no administrator function there except maybe to give them the detector to authorize against. But once done, you as administrator can go in and temporarily disable that account or permanently delete that account if that team member is no longer on the team. For those team members who do not want to have or do not need to have Field Console on their phone, you as an administrator can use the administrator module to generate a username and password for that team member. That team member will get an email. You can go ahead and reset that password if they ever lose it or forget it. And you can do the same, either disable or delete that account if that team member is no longer on the team. So like I said, hopefully fairly straightforward, and thank you so much for your time, and we'll see you next video.